Welcome into my video tonight, guys. Let's rank some highlighters. I started my channel just under a year ago. My first video went up on July 13th. I've made my way through my collection ranking my products. I've ranked bronzers. I think I've done that a couple of times as my collection has grown. I've ranked blushes. So naturally, I think the next thing to rank in my collection is highlighters. I don't know if a lot of us are wearing highlighters right now. I definitely am. I still do pretty much on an everyday basis. I like a highlighter. I like a punchy highlighter, mostly a punchy highlighter. Sometimes I like a natural highlighter, but for the most part, I really do want something that really makes my cheeks pop. That's just my personal preference. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's video, or at least this video gives you the opportunity to kind of dive into my collection, see my highlighter collection, even if highlighters isn't something that you're wearing right now, like me. I'm gonna rank these from worst all the way to best, which is my favorite. It is the one I'm wearing today. It is just so good. Like, I love this highlighter. So I'm gonna start from the bottom and I'm gonna go to the top. I'm not gonna keep track as I'm going, but I will put the number somewhere up on the screen. I will, of course, list everything in the description box. You can get all of these highlighters still. I did have a couple in my collection that I just kept out because you can no longer get them. I do include some highlighting palettes in today's video just because they're only highlighters. They're not comprised of like blushes or bronzers. They're not face palettes or anything. So let's just hop right into it. Okay, guys, prepare to be shocked because I think that some of the really popular highlighters out there are not my favorite. Like I said, I don't necessarily like a really natural looking highlighter. I think that having them in my collection, there are uses for them, but they're just not my preference. Also, I am not the biggest fan of liquid highlighters. I've gotten more into liquid highlighters recently. That's just my personal preference. So I think I'm gonna shock some people with how I've ranked some of my highlighters. So let's start at the bottom. Coming in last place is the Pure Nude highlighter from Essence. This one is in the shade Be My Highlight. So I mentioned that these highlighters that are really natural looking and just very light aren't my preference. I almost never see this showing up on my face. I don't think it's a bad formula per se. I think it's geared towards people who like the makeup, no makeup kind of look. It's the very slightest sheen. It's a really thin formula. So for that reason, I think it's good. It's just not my personal preference because it just doesn't pack enough punch. I really do enjoy like the texture of it and the formula. It's just that it doesn't provide enough punch for me. And so that's why it does come in at the bottom. Did I mention this ranking is gonna shock you guys? Because I really think it's gonna shock you. I think you're gonna find some really popular ones have landed themselves at the bottom for me personally. Even the next one. So the next one that I have is the Pillow Talk Multi-Glow from Charlotte Tilbury. This was a release last year. This one is called the Beautifying All Over Glow Highlighter, and I have mine in the shade Dream Light. The reason that I don't like this one isn't necessarily formula. It is about the way that this compact is designed. She has it in the set of quads, so you can kind of try and dip into some of the shades individually to get different color highlighters. Again, this one is in the shade Dream Light, so this is the light color story. I think they did also come with like a deep, so it did only come in like 2 different like shades or color stories in this particular highlighter. And so for that reason, this one is about shade for me, where I don't want to talk about shade necessarily. I'm ranking formula alone, but because the way this quad is designed, overall, when I'm putting this on and I'm dipping my brush in, I cannot get my brush into any one of those tiny little quads. I have to kind of just swirl it into the whole thing. The final effect is just not my desired one. It's just too deep of a shade. I have tried reaching for these 2 lighter ones on the outside. They just don't work for me. And I don't really like this as a blush shade for me. I think it's too glowy, it's too sheen. So that is why this one came in. It's just not my personal preference. Formula-wise, I actually think it's good, but because it comes in a quad like this, it's designed that way. So for me, it drops a little bit lower. The next 3 are actually liquid highlighters. So the next one coming up is the liquid highlighter from Milani. This is called the Conceal and Perfect. I did mention that I'm not a huge fan of liquid highlighters. This one overall is actually kind of a messy product. You can't close it. I really don't care for this shade. I think that when you blend it in, I think it kind of shears out to a lot less impact than I really prefer. And because it does have that very natural kind of finish, it's just not my preferred liquid highlighter. I do have a couple of liquid highlighters that rank much higher, but unfortunately because this is just on the lighter side and because it's a messier product overall, I just don't really find myself reaching for it that often, so that's why it is where it is. The next one is one of the Flower Beauty Spotlight liquid highlighters. I prefer this one a little bit more because you can can close this package. It does have a locking mechanism on it. I also like the finish a little bit better. I think that it doesn't sheer out to nothing. I think that when you rub it in, it's actually quite impactful. The reason that I put this one where it is though is because of the formula. The dry time on this is so fast, and so if I'm not doing like one cheek at a time and I'm like really getting this super emollient so that I can blend it in, I do find that it dries too quickly and it kind of leaves a stripe on my face if I'm not careful. It will just dry exactly where I put it. The desired effect, like, it's beautiful, it's gorgeous, it gives you all the punch in the world. It dries to like a matte or a powder finish, and I like that about it. I just don't like how fast this product dries, and so it makes it a little bit more difficult for me to apply. It's a very sheeny product, it's very beautiful on the skin, it's just the dry time is too quick. The next one that I have up is the e.l.f. Halo Glow Highlight. This one is in the shade Champagne Campaign. This one has a very similar applicator tip as the Milani, but for whatever reason, the product doesn't seem to leak out and make as much of a mess as the Milani one. I think that it's very similar to the Milani in that it's on the lighter side. Once you blend this in, it's definitely a more natural highlighter. The reason I think I like this a little bit more than Milani, because I think I like the formula. It's just a little bit thinner. I like the dry time on this. I like the shade a little bit more. Because it's more on the natural side, it's just not one that I gravitate towards. That's really the only reason. I actually think this is a really good wand. In terms of like the way that the wands that I just showed you compare to the Charlotte Tilbury, the one from Flower Beauty is honestly the most matched in terms of like pigmentation, just sheer shimmer overall. I just prefer this one a little bit more because it's a little bit less of a hassle than the previous two. So next up, these I have two of. These are the Space Age highlighters from Kaleidos. I have the more pinky one in Star Surfer, and the one that's more like iridescent and it shifts different colors is in Mars Melter. I used to really like these, and I know that they're very popular, or they were very popular. The reason these have been pushed down in my list of highlighters that I really enjoy is just because they're on the more sparkly side. They're definitely thicker. They're not a smooth formula. They have a lot of like glitters in them. I think the one that's in Star Surfer is a little bit more smooth and muted, but the one that's in Mars Melter is definitely more iridescent. It shifts multicolors. I'm just not really into a shifty highlighter anymore unless it shifts one color, and I usually most prefer it shifting a pure yellow. I just happen to think that pure yellow on my skin tone looks really good. So these aren't necessarily a bad formulation, but a lot of them are very shifty. They are on the thicker side. They are on the more sparkly side. These ones are just not ones that I'm reaching for that often anymore. The next up, I also have two in these. These are from ColourPop. These are their heart-shaped highlighters. They did launch a Valentine's Day collection this year, and I did pick these up. These are just unremarkable to me. The two shades that I have are, the more white shade is Making Memories, and the more yellow or gold toned one is in You're Glowing. The reason that I say that they're unremarkable is just because I don't think that they outperform some of my other highlighters. They're not even as good as some of the drugstore highlighters that I have in my collection, but also because they end up looking pretty chalky. They just seem to pick up a lot of powder. They kind of look powdery on the cheeks. So that's why I say that they're just kind of an unremarkable formula. They just don't stand out for me in the highlighters that I have in my collection, unfortunately. I don't think that they're necessarily bad, but because they're a little bit on the powdery side, they're just not ones that I reach for that often. The next one up is also another one from ColourPop. This is one of their pressed powder highlighters. This is in their permanent packaging. This one is in Cold One. I find the same exact issue with this highlighter. It's not that it's not a smooth formula, it really is. Again though, it's on the powdery side. And I notice that every single time I use it, it's definitely powdery. It looks kind of powdery. Again, pretty unremarkable for ColourPop. And as you'll see, there are some remarkable drugstore formulas that just outperform these ones. I'm sure I'm gonna continue to like throw you guys off. I think the next two are probably pretty popular. So the next one that I have is one of the Dior Backstage highlighting palettes. There's always been a lot of hype around this product, but then I didn't get it. It was a lot of sparkles. It's a huge amount of sparkles, and that's pretty much all it looks like on your cheeks. It's not a super smooth formula, honestly. Even though they're baked and it looks smooth in the pan, the way that they feel when you're picking them up on your finger is a little bit gritty. When they get to your cheeks, it's mostly sparkle. I like the shades, and the sparkle is okay sometimes. It just didn't have enough pigment and more sparkle for me. The reason this isn't lower, I will tell you, is because of this yellow shade right here, and it is this one right here. I love this shade. I think that having like this yellow tone and not like a pure gold tone, which is very popular, or a champagne gold is super popular. I love the fact that this palette in 002 Glitz has this yellow shade. I think it makes up for the formula on this because I do really like that color. But that's the reason this is where it is because of the formula. The reason it isn't lower is that yellow shade. The next one that I have is a baked highlighter from Milani. This one is in Dolce Perla. Pretty good formulation on this. I do like it. I do find that it's a little bit powdery. The biggest reason that I don't gravitate towards this is because it's on the lighter side. I like something a little bit punchier than this. I think this is good for a makeup, no makeup day, but boy, is this a dry product. It feels extremely dry even when you're picking it up on your finger. I love their baked blushes. I think they're a little bit different than this formula, if I'm being honest. So the reason I don't gravitate towards this is one, because it's a little bit drier of a formula, and two, because it's on the lighter side, and I just really prefer something more punchy. When I'm gonna go for a highlighter, I want it to be a little bit more punchy. So that is why this one is where it is. That was everything in the category of those ones that could all leave my collection and I would be fine with it. The next ones are like meh, like I like having them, but they're definitely not some of my top ones. I grouped my top ones and I was looking at them and I was like, yep, for sure. So the next set, and I can't even tell you how many that's gonna be, it's just that the next set is all ones that they're good. There's nothing wrong with them and they all perform a little bit differently. They're just not my absolute favorite. So if you don't hear me say anything negative about any of them, that's really why. The next one that I have is from Too Faced. This is one of their Cheek Popper blushing highlighters. This did only come in one shade as part of the Pinker Times Ahead collection. I think it's a decent pink highlighter. It's more on the sheer side though. Like this product can be built up. That's the difference between this one and like maybe some of the other ones like the Essence Pure Nude highlighter, for example. But this is like a mix between kind of sparkles and shimmer to it. It's not my favorite formula. It is also a little bit on the drier side. I think it's good, but I like the next highlighter that is also in a pinky shade because it's just more impactful. So not necessarily bad. It's just those couple of things that push it where it is. It's not my favorite pink highlighter by any means. And when I'm thinking of a pink highlighter, it's not the first one that I grab for. So let's talk about the next pink one. This one is actually really good and I've come to quite enjoy it. This is one of the Whipped Glow Mousse highlighters from Profusion. This one is in the shade Sweet Whip. This one does have a lot of sparkles in it, but the sparkles are so fine that it makes your cheeks look wet, like genuinely look wet. It's a really interesting formula. Like the texture is bouncy. It's almost like putty, but you can tell it's not putty. You can tell it's definitely powder. It's just honestly a pretty decent highlighter. I really like it. And when I'm thinking of a pink highlighter, this is the one I think of reaching for. The next one that I have is the Golden Hour highlighter duo from Sephora. I have mine in the shade 02 Daybreak. I don't think this is a half bad highlighter. You get one side that they call a low beam and the other side that they call a high beam. One is more soft and on the lighter side, and the one that they call high beam is a little bit more impactful and punchy. I do think that having a duo like this is actually quite cool for a lot of people, that depending upon what you're looking for the day, you really can get a more natural, subdued looking highlighter, and then you can amp it up if you want something more amped up. So I think this is good. It's not my favorite. Even the one that it's in high beam isn't necessarily as bright of a highlighter as I like to wear, so it's not one that I think of reaching for. And honestly, the low beam one, like I would honestly rather reach for the Milani baked highlighter over the low beam side if I'm going for something more subdued. So it's decent, it's just not perfect, and that's the reason that it is where it is. The next one that I have up is from Milk Cosmetics. It's one of their digital dust highlighters. I have mine in the shade Stargazer. I actually think this is a damn good highlighter. It's smooth, it goes on really easily. I think you can build this product up so you can go a little bit more subdued if you want to, but you can also amp it up. I have nothing negative to say about this. I just remember some of my other like higher up ranked highlighters a little bit more and I grab for them more often, but there's nothing negative to say about this. The next three that I have two of. So the first ones that I have up, the more icy or blue one is the Nikkie Tutorials collab that's called Space Baby. Both of these are actually the Nikkie Tutorials collabs. One that's a little bit more champagne in color is called Glazed Donut. I used to really love the formula from Ofra. I think that it's pretty good. I really don't gravitate towards the one called Space Baby anymore. I used to like ones that shifted and that were colorful and whatnot. I think I like something that's a little bit more champagne on an everyday basis or even yellow like I mentioned before, so I really do like the one in glazed donut still. I will still grab for this. These are just pushed down. They're not my favorite formula anymore. I think that I eyed these for so long and they were really popular. I just feel like I found other formulas that I like better. So I would say nothing is really bad with this. I think they're just being outperformed by some less expensive highlighters now. Okay, I'm gonna shock some people with this, I think. I'm gonna shock some people. And I have really never been the biggest fan of this formula, I have to say. I have other putty highlighters in my collection that just, they're good. They're so good and they're even better than these. So the ones that I have are these Super Shock Cheeks from ColourPop. The more goldy one is in Lunch Money, and the one that's a little bit more icy is in the shade Flexitarian. I know that these are super popular. Flexitarian I prefer so much more. The reason that they just don't rank higher for me is because I have tried quite a few putty highlighter formulas at this point, and I just don't find these super easy to use. I really do prefer to put on like a powder or putty formula with my brush. I prefer not to pick it up with my finger. It's just not something that I like to do all of the time. So I don't find this the easiest to pick up on a brush. I actually think that the Super Shock formula from ColourPop is the most difficult to pick up on a brush. It's me just being a little bit more finicky, and that's fine. These are just not my favorite like putty formula highlighters. But I have to say the Flexitarian one is the one that I reach for the most often. So the next ones that I have up, I also have two of them. I liked these. I don't like these as much as I did when I first started trying them, but they are the Rare Beauty highlighters. Her new launches in these compacts. I have the more white shade in Enlighten and the more pinky shade in Mesmerize. I actually think this is a really tremendously beautiful formula. It feels fantastic when you're touching it and swatching it. They both look beautiful on the skin. The reason these are where they are is because they emphasize so much texture on my cheeks. It's so noticeable. That is the only reason they are where they are. The proof is in the swatches. Honestly, they swatch beautifully. They are beautiful. There's no glitter in them or anything. They're just like super light reflective. But yeah, they emphasize so much texture on my cheeks. So that is the only reason, but I would never get rid of them. Like, I really do love those highlighters. The next one that I have up is one of the Mega Glow highlighters from Wet n Wild. I have mine in the shade Blossom Glow. Wet n Wild is honestly proof that you can make like drugstore makeup that is beautiful and smooth and good quality. In this case, very punchy. You can build it up. You can also sheer it out. It doesn't have sparkles in it, for an affordable price point. There is nothing wrong with this highlighter. I do really enjoy it. I have other formulas that I like a little bit more. I don't necessarily love this color the most on me, and even though I don't want to admit it, sometimes that's pushing these down a little bit more. So nothing wrong with the Mega Glow products. In my opinion, Wet n Wild is awesome. The next one that I have is from Rude Cosmetics. It's one of their Mentos collection highlighters. It's called the Fresh Highlighter, and this is in the shade Citrus Fresh. I love this highlighter for the shade. That's pretty much it. Like, I love the yellow tone of this. It's also super creamy. It's a very like bouncy formula. It's almost like putty. It's definitely a powder highlighter, but it feels like putty, and the shade on me is just so flattering. That's why this one is where it is. I don't think it's a better formula than some of the ones that went this way. I don't think it's a better formula than some of the ones that went that way. I think it's a really good product from Rude Cosmetics. It was my favorite thing from the Mentos collection that they launched, but yeah, it's really just that shade, and that's what gets me. The next one that I have is from Charlotte Tilbury. This is the Hollywood Glow Glide Face Architect Highlighter. Not a bad product. This is actually quite beautiful. It can be sheared out, it can be built up. It's not my favorite though. The packaging is a little bit cheap in my opinion. I know that these compacts are changeable, but this just spins in here, so it feels a little bit cheap, and it also isn't the most impactful highlighter. It's good, it's just not great. Next up is one from Catrice. This is one of their Glow Lover Oil Infused highlighters. This one is in the shade Glowing Peony. So beautiful. This is kind of a swirled highlighter. When it gets to the cheeks, it's like this pinky gold champagne color that is so unique in my collection. It is a really natural looking highlighter, but you can amp it up. You can keep layering this product up, and it does not get to the point where it shows any kind of texture on your cheeks. It's just a smooth formula. And this particular shade, so unique in my collection. I hate to bring in shade when I'm talking about ranking highlighters, but unfortunately there are times where brands are making shades that are just really unique, and for that reason I tend to reach for them a little bit more because they just are more flattering on my skin tone, for example. So I think this is a unique shade in my collection. I think it's a product that you can, like I said, sheer out or build up. It's just extremely smooth on the skin. The next one that I have is just a little mini. This is one from Jouer. This is one of their powder highlighters. This is honestly a little one that I love to travel with. This one is in the shade Rose Gold. It is such a gorgeous color when it gets to your cheeks. It is exactly what they say. It is a rosy shade, but it also has gold in it. It is super flattering on my cheeks. It's a super smooth formula, never emphasizes my texture. This particular highlighter I've traveled with so many times, and I will continue to, because it's just a trusty formula that is actually just this gorgeous, gorgeous shade on the skin. So I do really, really enjoy this. My highest ranking Charlotte Tilbury is her Beauty Light Wand. This one is in the shade Pillow Talk. I honestly think she actually has a superior formula to all of the dupes that are out there. The dry time is perfect. It gives you plenty of time to work with this product. It can be sheared out for a more natural look, but it's pretty punchy all on its own without needing to be built up. It's the most light reflecting of like this and all her dupes that are out there. It really is just kind of a superior formula. I was wrong. This is not my highest ranking highlighter from Charlotte. I do have one more. So the next two are actually highlighting palettes. The first one that I have up is the Glow Essentials from Ace Beauté. This formula shocked me. It's like a putty formula, but it is powder. It's just on the stickier side. It goes on extremely smooth. It is super duper punchy, really easy to pick up on a brush. It lasts all day because it's on the stickier side of the formula. I was really surprised. I don't usually like highlighter palettes like this. I don't know, for whatever reason, I just don't gravitate towards them. This is a really good highlighting palette from Ace Beauté. The formula on this is honestly just tremendous, and you get a lot of different shades. Like, I like the range in here. Nice variety, really good formula. The next one also surprised me. This one is from Touch and Soul. It is called the Pretty Filter Glowdient Makeup Palette. Another super shocking formula. Love the gradient in it. I love that it goes pretty light to pretty dark. I like the variety of shades. I think that's pretty versatile, but the formula is super duper smooth. It's super light reflecting, and it lasts a good amount of time. So I do really like this palette. The next one that I have is one of the Bio Radiant Gel Highlighters from Haus Labs. This one is in the shade Sunstone. I really do like this. I think it is a really smooth formula. I don't think it overemphasizes any of the texture on my cheeks. I absolutely love this color. It's like a cross between like a yellow and a gold. So I just happen to think that this shade is extremely flattering on my skin tone. I have heard people say that like this was just kind of an okay formula, but I actually think this is a pretty decent highlighter overall. The next one that I have is one of the skin glazing highlighters from Nabla. I think this is an extremely underrated product. I have mine in the shade Ozone. When you touch this, it's like literally one of the most smooth water-like feeling highlighters that I have in my collection. It is extremely light reflecting, super pigmented, great for a punchy day, just super smooth formula, really doesn't emphasize any texture on my cheeks. Honestly, super underrated in my opinion. I pretty much love this whole line. I actually have the Nabla bronzer on right now. As a matter of fact, that's just coincidence. It's just made in Italy. It's just super fine Italian makeup. Like, it's really, really good, super underrated. In fact, I see a lot of people in the declutter videos getting rid of a lot of these Nabla products. Nope, not me. The next one that I have is from MAC. This is the Extra Dimension Skin Finish, and this one is in the shade Double Gleam. I picked this one up at the Ulta 21 Days of Beauty sale this year. This is beautiful. Honestly, you can't go wrong with this formula in my opinion. It is super smooth. It is super light reflecting. There is nothing negative about this highlighter. Sorry I slept on trying it. I have so many in my collection, but it's really, really good product from MAC. The next one that I have, one of the Benefit boxed highlighters. This one is in the shade Cookie. I recently tried this product for the first time this year. This is in the new style packaging, so it's in the smaller, thinner box, but it's so gorgeous. I definitely understand the hype around it. It's super light reflecting. It's a beautiful shade. It's just like a pearly shade, honestly, just a pinky pearl shade. It goes on super smooth. It's super punchy. It's kind of a long-lasting formula, honestly, because it has like a little bit of tack to it. Overall, it's just a tremendous highlighter. This is the favorites category from here on out. So the first one that I have in the favorites category is one from JCat. This one is the You Glow Girl Baked Highlighter. This one is in the shade Seaside Frost. This is a great baked formula. This product is like under $7. It's super light reflecting. It picks up on a brush super easily. It also has a little bit of a tack to it, so this is a product that lasts me all day. Like, this is such a good formula. I'm coming to love JCat so much. Like, I didn't realize they were such a good like drugstore brand that had such quality products, but yeah, this one from JCat is super good. best affordable baked drugstore highlighter formula in my opinion. Wait, there might be one more that's better. Up next, we have one from Cosmetics. This is the Sunscape highlighter. I have mine in the shade Clarity. This is one of the smoothest looking when it actually gets to my cheeks. Every time I wear this highlighter, everyone asks me like, what are you wearing on your cheeks? I get a lot of compliments when I wear this. It's a super, super creamy formula. It's punchy, but it also melts into your skin really, really well. So this is a tremendous formulation from Cosmetics. I think she does great on her powder formula products, honestly. The next one that I have is a different kind of unique formula in my collection. This is one of the strobing balms from Winky Lux. This one is in the shade Radiant Pink. I actually might be underselling this product. I feel like now looking at it, I probably should have ranked this higher because it's such an emollient formula. It is super duper creamy. And as far as like liquid highlighters go, this is actually honestly one that I love reaching for because I think it's a super easy application with your finger. It looks super beautiful on the skin. It's super smooth. It's super long lasting. Nobody talks about this, but it's one of the reasons that I've been dying to try more products from Winky Lux. I don't know if they're any good, but this is tremendous quality. Favorite compact cream highlighter ever that I've ever tried. The next one is a straight up OG, you guys. This is the Becca highlighter in Champagne Pop. I have two little minis. Honestly, this is such a badass, like smooth formula. It is honestly such a beautiful, beautiful color that I feel like it works for a lot of different skin tones. So super OG product, blends super easily into the skin. It looks tremendous, pretty long lasting. It's just honestly like a tried and true product. Like it had hype for its time, but I also don't feel like it was phased out like some other products. You know how some products were just OGs at the time, but then you're like, oh, okay, that's pretty standard in highlighter world. I feel like the quality of this wasn't necessarily surpassed. The next one that I have is from Revolution Pro. This is one of their luster highlighters. This one is in the shade White Rose. This one really surprised me. Not only is it like this beautiful rose design, but it's actually really, really good quality. The formulation on it is super smooth, but it also has that stick to it. You can feel that when you swatch it. And so it lasts a really long time. It just looks super good on the cheeks. It's very, very punchy. Revolution products are really hit or miss with me. I never know what I'm gonna get, but this is a tremendously formulated highlighter in my opinion. The next one that I have is a mini highlighter from Jaclyn Cosmetics. I do not buy any of her products anymore, but I can say that a lot of her formulations were really, really good. This formula is super smooth. The undertone of this particular shade is gorgeous. It has like this brownie gold undertone with like this really white base that looks super icy. It's a really, really punchy formula. It's super easy to pick up. I like that she came out with these minis. I don't necessarily love the compact, but I like that it's a lot smaller than the larger version of this. It's a super good formula. I actually have another of her highlighters in here that's a little bit higher ranked because I think that she did a good job formulating both of them. The next one, this is from La Bouche Rouge and only comes in one shade, so it is not a very inclusive brand or product by any means. This shade just happens to work really well on my skin tone, and it's like this peachy rosy champagne color, so it is really, really beautiful. This formula does have a little bit of a tack to it, so it's a longer lasting formula. It also just goes on super smooth, and honestly for like a high-end highlighter, it has a lot more pigmentation and a lot more impact than a lot of other high-end highlighters that I've tried. I do not mean to say high-end, I do mean to say luxury. Just like the Dior, I think it's kind of on the like sparkly or more demure side, whereas this one I think is definitely more punchy, and surprisingly for a luxury brand, I honestly think this is really, really good. It's the only thing I've tried from La Bouche Rouge, and I don't know that they have a huge like permanent line, but because this is so good, it would make me consider trying other formulations from them just because I enjoy that highlighter so much. The next one that I have up is a fairly new release. This one is from Danessa Myrics. This is one of her Vision Flush highlighters. I should not call this a highlighter. This is made for lip, cheek, and eyes. A lot of these Vision Flush ones are. This one just happens to be in a shade that you would typically use for highlighter. This one is in the shade Tiara. This made me fall back in love or want to give liquid highlighters a chance again. It's just a really good formula. It gives you time to work with it. it. It's like a cream to powder finish, and that's probably why I like it so much. It's easily just like blended in with your fingertips. It's not the most punchy liquid highlighter I have in my collection, but I like it for like more natural days. But I also think you can build this product up. It's actually extremely light reflecting. I think it's a really good formula. Like I said, it gives you time to work. If you're somebody who's just not really into liquid highlighters, then I would say like checking something like this out might, I don't know, change your mind. It did for me anyway. The next one that I have is the only loose highlighter in my collection. This one is from Laura Mercier. This is actually a translucent loose setting powder. This one is in Celestial Light. This was definitely meant to be a glowier face powder product and not a highlighter, but anybody who would wear this as a product like that wouldn't just wear it as a highlighter must be glowing to the gods, because I can only wear this as a highlighter, but I love it as a highlighter. It has light reflection, it is super smooth, but it's also on the natural side, but you can build this up. There is something about the way that this looks on the skin. It is so beautiful. It's kind of unlike any other highlighter that I have in my collection because it is a loose powder formula. It's gorgeous. It's just so much product. I will never go through all of this for a loose powder highlighter. Otherwise, yeah, it ain't leaving. It's just that good. Like, I like having it around in my collection. Not the easiest thing to apply, but doesn't matter. The next one that I have is one of the Heaven's Hue highlighters from Stila. This one is in the shade Kitten. This is where we start getting into putty formula highlighters that, whoo, they're so good. They're like water. They're like touching silk. This is a really punchy highlighter. It's a beautiful like pinky but yet icy shade, and it doesn't cast anything weird. Sometimes when you have a highlighter that's like pink but it also has like an icy highlight to it, that it can be, when facing one direction, look a little dark on the skin and then it will catch the light. This one doesn't do that, at least not on my skin. I find this is super easy to pick up with a brush, and with putty highlighters that's really important, because I find like with the ColourPop one, I really have a hard time getting it to pick up with a brush unless it's like super dense. I can pick this up with a really fluffy brush. It's a super good putty formula. It doesn't beat the next one, but it's really good. So the next one that I have, I already told you, was a putty one. It's not the last putty one, but it's a good putty one. This is another one from Jaclyn Cosmetics. It's literally called her putty highlighter. This one is in the shade Glazed Out. This is actually a formula that almost feels super wet. You can pick up a ton of product with this highlighter on a really fluffy brush and deposit a lot onto the cheeks. It's extremely light reflecting. It is so incredibly smooth. It doesn't fade off instantly. It actually has a good lasting time. It's just a really good putty highlighter. I knew this was part of a collection that she launched, but I still think it's available. Like, I think she did make this eventually part of her permanent line. If I'm wrong and I can't link this below, I will let you know, but I do think this is still available for sale. Like I said, I'm not supporting Jaclyn anymore, but I'm not getting rid of the 2 products that I still have left from her. I think I still only have 2 left, yeah. But this putty highlighter is tremendous. It's so good. We are definitely wrapping it up here. The next one that I have is from Anastasia Beverly Hills. This is the Iced Out highlighter. When this one launched, which I think was like 2 years ago now, a lot of people were hoping that it was like the Ombrizi highlighter. With the name like Iced Out, he definitely thought it was going to be a more like icy shade, maybe blue. But as you can see on the swatch, it's definitely a yellow highlighter, which, you know, you've heard me say now, I really love a yellow highlighter. So while a lot of people were really disappointed in this product, I wasn't. I really enjoyed the shade. I was very pleasantly surprised when I got it, because I just think that the shade looks extremely flattering on me. But it is the same great formula as the Ombrizi shade. It's really smooth, it's easy to apply, it's super light reflecting, tremendous formula, tremendous shade. The next one that I have is a trio. This one is from Pat McGrath. This one is called the Sublime Skin Highlighting Trio. This one did not come in any particular shade. It was just the highlighting trio that came with those 3 shades. This is honestly an underrated, under talked about product. I know that she still carries this. It's such a smooth formula. It's honestly one of my smoothest formula highlighters. I cannot use all of these shades. In fact, I only really like one. It is the middle shade, because I did tell you that I really like gold. This is a truly shifty gold. It's almost green. It's so gorgeous. It's the most unique in my collection. These are some of the smoothest and punchiest highlighters that I have. I think this is a truly underrated formula, and honestly, when I'm thinking of products, when it's blushes, bronzer, and highlighters that come from Pat McGrath, I personally prefer her highlighter formula over those other 2. That's just my personal preference. I wish more people talked about this because I think this formula is badass, but I also wish that she would make different shades, because I think a lot of these shades that come in this palette turn people off. They're just not things that people reach for very often. So I would like to see her come up with more wearable shades. For me personally, it's that middle shade over and over again. I love it. I think it looks beautiful on me. The next one that we have is from the drugstore. This is the Revlon Skin Lights highlighter. This one is in the shade Daybreak Glimmer. This is another baked formula. When I was talking about the JCat one and I was saying that it's really smooth, it's very light reflecting, this one is the one that beats that in terms of drugstore baked highlighters. It's just so smooth and so beautiful. It goes on basically like silk. It lasts all day. It's such a tremendous formula from Revlon. It's probably my favorite thing from Revlon aside from their new Illuminance foundation. This is my other like favorite Revlon product. The next one that I have is a liquid one. This is the top one from Charlotte Tilbury. This is the Hollywood Flawless filter. This one is just a mini. This one is in the shade Too Fair. I know that this product is very popular as a universal product that you can use it anyway. Like you can use it under your foundation, you can use it as a highlighter. Some people mix it in with their foundation. I only wear this product as a highlighter. I like it because I think it looks extremely glowy, but extremely natural in like the best way possible. So when it comes to very natural highlighter products, this is my favorite. This is honestly like the only natural looking highlighter products that I would use. I honestly think it's just too glowy to wear under my foundation. The e.l.f. Halo Glow actually isn't as glowy as this product is. I prefer this one as a highlighter. I just think that the formula is so good. Really long lasting, more on the natural side, but it's the only one I like on the natural side. We are down to our top three, or up to our top three, I guess. The next ones that I have two shades. These are the highlighting powders from Bobbi Brown. The more pinky one is in Pink Glow, the more peachy one is in Peach Glow. I will say with these, there isn't a huge difference between the shades, honestly, because they are marbleized. The one that I got that was in Peach Glow, the marbleization is more pearl. I have not used this product enough to really get to the peach marbleization. So unfortunately, they do look very similar on the cheeks. This is my favorite powder highlighter formula. These do retail for over $50 now, so they are on the higher price point, but they're so beautiful. They are so punchy. They are so easy to pick up on a brush. Honestly, they're one of the longest lasting powder highlighters that I have that's not like a putty formula. They're just silk, and every time I catch myself in the mirror like wearing them, I'm like, oh my gosh, what did you put on today? I get a lot of compliments when I wear these. They're a really sophisticated, just really smooth formula. I probably like one of the most smoothing on my cheeks. These are so good. That's why I have two. I ended up going back and, you know, spending my hard-earned money on another one that's in the $50 price range because I just thought that they were so beautiful. The next one that I have is a liquid. So it definitely shocked me. It's a newer product and it's a newer product to me, but I can't put it down, and I don't think it's gonna get pushed down because it's just so unique. I don't have anything else like it. This is the Rollaway Glow from Iconic London. This one is in the shade Champagne Chic. I just thought this was a tremendously innovative product. Because I'm just not a huge fan of liquid highlighters, I thought putting it on this roller ball was really ingenious. Kind of weird, but definitely ingenious because it really did work. For people who don't like to apply liquid highlighters, the way that this just goes on so smoothly and that you can literally just pat it in like 3 or 4 times onto your cheeks and get the glowiest, most vibrant liquid highlighter that I've ever tried before, it's totally worth it. Iconic London products are actually a hit or miss for me. I haven't always had like the greatest luck, and I saw this and I thought it looked really cool, but then wasn't gonna get it because I thought, well, you don't like liquid highlighters, so why are you gonna waste your money? But then I got it because it just looked so cool, and then I was super glad that I did. Now it's my number 2 highlighter and it's liquid. I don't mind it at all. I think it's super good highlighter. We have reached the final highlighter. This is the Highlight from Caliray. It's a new release, so it's new to me. I have mine in the shade Starlight Beach. This is a putty highlighter formula. It is the most easy putty highlighter formula to pick up on a fluffy brush ever. It is the most punchy. It is a super extremely long lasting formula. It is the one that I'm wearing today. You guys, let me show you what it does when I just barely tap the brush into it and how much product I get off on it. So here's me. Let me kind of just like barely brush in there. Let me show you how much comes up like on a swatch here on my hand. That was me just barely tapping it in. And that's how much you get on your hand. I barely touched it. That's just how good it does. You guys, when I do that, I like dig my brush in and I kind of just forget, and then I swipe it on and I'm like, which is basically what I did with the application today. I was like, oh my gosh, look what I've done. But honestly, I just left it. I didn't diffuse it. We are doing a highlighter ranking, so I thought, okay, this is the best video to just wear this super punchy highlighter. It totally makes sense. You could go in with a light hand, but it's really hard to. You have to go in with the lightest hand. And you guys saw, this is like a really fluffy ColourPop highlighter brush. Some of my other highlighter brushes are more dense and they're meant for like harder to pick up powder products, or sometimes I use them for the ColourPop one. Don't use that with this. So punchy, basically makes my cheeks look wet. Really love this. I have other putty formulas in my collection. This one just beats them. So I know what they perform like, and I am used to the putty formula. This one, honestly, just my favorite. So good from caliray. If you guys like something super punchy like this, you would love this. That was it, you guys, and I hope that you guys enjoy this video. I know that maybe not all of us are wearing highlighters these days, but I thought it would be fun to do this video. So anyway, that was it and a wrap. I'd love to hear from you guys as to whether or not you've tried some of these, which ones are your favorite, maybe some that I didn't mention here today. I'd love to hear your feedback. If you guys enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. I'm out of here, you guys, and I will catch you all in my next video. Bye.